Yes, we are live now. I will share the link below on the chat box, so you can use that to share on your Facebook account. So I think we are good to go, right? Yes. So first of all, I just would love to thank you, these wonderful two ladies here, Maluke Lethal and Laura Cobb, for joining us in today's talk. As you know, the Curator Speaks is a series of leadership talks delivered by global leaders across the world. So as our world progresses, we need transformative leaders whose voice and actions can give us a better direction toward a better advanced civilization. So, driven by the vision to build a community of leaders, the Beacons Academy started a virtual platform where leaders from all over the world join to share their voice to empower our young leaders. We believe passionately in the power of leadership to change the communities, organizations, and each individuals. So first of all, we have a special guest here, Dr. Laura Cobb. She is one of the world's most impactful advocates for women's personal and professional empowerment and leadership. From successful university faculty and program manager with the Pentagon to homeless struggling mother on public assistant to successful entrepreneur, Dr. Laura's courage and determination has inspired women worldwide and helped countless others break through to discover their own untapped talents and infinite potential. Over the last 20 years, she has a career experiences, including the direct in the U.S. Army Europe Family Advocacy Program, facilitating college courses at 4 different universities, and serving as a president of the European branch of the American Counseling Association. She has also helped develop workshops and programs that have transformed the lives of thousands of men and women and altered the trajectory of their personal and professional lives throughout the country and across the world. So with all my heart, I would love to welcome Laura Cobb to this beautiful event. Second, we have another speaker from South Africa, Maluke Lethal. She is an executive coach and the founder of Maluke Consulting Services. She started her journey into leadership after 20 years of corporate life, having had the vision to help people in leadership and personal development. She has been coaching people to become the pioneer leaders. And I would love to welcome Maluke to the Curator Speaks. So, welcome to this event. And we have a wonderful audience here. We have first now Makai and Nishi, and also all the people who are now watching from Facebook and who are going to watch from our from our YouTube community. I just would love to welcome you to this event once again. And without further ado, I'd love to invite Dr. Laura Cobb to speak about leadership and community development. Dr. Laura.
Thank you so much for having me, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Thank you.
Imagine that there are scarce resources, and your community has to fight for them. Imagine that there's one individual who has authority to control whether or not and how those resources are distributed. I want you to imagine a classroom with numerous children, and they're playing a game called musical chairs. Now, this is a game that in the United States, we played a lot as a child. And it's a game such that there are a number of chairs that are set up in a circle, and the seats for the chairs are facing outside. And the number of chairs are one less than the number of participants playing the game. The children or participants are standing outside of the circle of chairs, and the leader is playing music. And the leader chooses when the music will stop. And as the game progresses, the children or participants walk outside of the circle of the chairs, knowing that there's one less chair than the number of people. Those are scarce resources. And each time the music is played, they're walking around the circle, the music stops, and they're scrambling for a chair. Normally there's laughing and fighting over a chair because they want the resources. Well, each time the game progresses and the music stops, there's one person left standing. That person is kicked out of the game. They have to stand on the outside. They don't have access to those resources. And as the game progresses on and each subsequent round is taken, and the number of chairs diminishes and the number of people diminishes as well, being mindful at the same time that there's always one less chair than the number of people. So you know someone's got to lose. Someone's going to be ejected from the game. And the last round that's played, there's one chair and there's two people who are walking around the chair, circling the chairs, trying to stay close to it no matter what, so they can get the resource. Well, there's one person left standing. That's the winner. Imagine that in a classroom. People are fighting so much that broken bones take place because they're fighting over those resources. Yes, it's happened to me. I've been the facilitator of this game. I had a United States Marine, a large gentleman, very strong, fighting so hard to get that last resource. He broke his finger. He was ejected out of the game because he had to. Now imagine this game is played again, and everything about the game is the same, except the chairs are taken out one at a time after each time that the music stops. However, the number of people stay in the game. No one is kicked out. Everyone has to stay in the game, with the caveat, with the rule that they have to find some place to sit. They can't sit on the floor. They can't sit on any of the desks that have been out to the chairs that are put out the side. They can't sit on any people on the outside of the game. They have to stay in the circle, and they have to continue to rotate around the chairs. Each time that the music stops, an additional chair is taken from the game. Finally comes to the last round. There's one chair left, maybe 15 people, the same number of people as when the game started. And when that last chair is taken out, inevitably, every single time, they have to sit on each other's lap. They're in a circle in a union. There's laughing and there's fun and there's people, come sit on my lap, come on over here. They're sharing the resources. So as the resources that they know of start to decrease in number, the resources that they understood what was okay for them to envision, what they thought that was the resources, they begin to realize that the resources are not so scarce. The ones that they thought were valuable aren't as valuable because they start to draw upon the resource of themselves. That the human capacity for inclusion, the human opportunity to allow others to have a reframe, if you will, a mindset shift, that when we change the way that we look at the world that we look at changes. And this is just simple children's game that a lot of adults can play as well. I implore you to try it. So when we think about competition and cooperation, competition versus collaboration, when we start to look at the world differently, we start to understand that when we communicate with one another, not to at each other, for each other, not for oneself, that we can work together as a community. And when the leader changes the tune, changes the music, changes the rules, those whom to follow will follow in earnest, allowing each person to reap the rewards of staying in the game. No one's excluded. There's a reason why it's called collaboration. It's co-labor. Co-labor, we work together. Sure, maybe those resources are not as great as if one person won all of them. But when one person wins, they say in the United States, it's lonely at the top. It's lonely at the top. I don't know about anyone else, but I sure as heck do not want to be alone at the top. I can be alone, actually, and be very lonely. I would much rather be in a group where I'm never alone. And sure enough, I'm never lonely. So I implore you, as a leader, because leaders are not necessarily those who are in charge. Leaders are responsible for those who are in their charge. If you lead with earnest due diligence to benefit all, then all will follow. Shine the light, play the music that sings to everyone's song, that rings out in everyone's heart. And I can promise you that for those who are struggling along the shore, those leaders will be the light. So the followers will find their way to shore so that they too then can become the light on the shore for those who are struggling to find their way home. And home is where the heart is. Home is where it's safe. Home is where the resources. Home is where each of us resides if we just extend a hand and as a community, stand up and speak up, step up and be seen, because each one of us matters. Be the resource in your community. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. That was actually very intense, beautiful, transforming speech. I just love it. It's really beautiful. I just would love to say that it is indeed it's leaders are not responsible toward their titles, but toward their responsibilities. So I just love it. Yes, of course we are. And that's one of the reasons why people who have no titles come out of their comfort zones, come out of the boxes and start to change, start to, create changes. And I just love to say that was awesome. Beautiful. So I just would love to ask our audience if you have any questions to ask to Laura. So Makaye, Fasna, Sadia, Rahina, anyone?
Hi, Laura. Again. Yeah, I'm quite blessed by your presentation when you said that we need to be resourceful people. So that's very important. And how can a person work with his own mind, let's say out of difficulty? How can they shape and channel their mind to make them be people that can be resourceful? Because sometimes the resources that we're looking for, we don't have, but we want to be resourceful ourselves. How can we be?
I love that question. And what I love about that question is that sometimes, at least from my perspective, that I view, well, how can possibly a person who is struggling, who doesn't seem to have any power over their life and makes no influence? Well, I think of the words, in the words of the Dalai Lama, if you think you're too small to make a difference, try sleeping with a mosquito. If you think you're too small and there's too much control placed over you, remember Nelson Mandela. Remember those who have been in circumstances, situations where they were dominated, they were controlled, maybe they didn't have power. There will be a time. And when it is time, it will be time to stand up and show up, step up and speak up.
Exactly.
You're never too small to make a difference.
Beautiful.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just would love to add something with that because, you know, actually, I've heard this quote from, I think, from my motivational speaker, I just forgot, Les Brown, that he says that necessity is the mother of creation. Necessity, you know, because the lack of resource is actually the driving force that actually push us to, you know, get out of the place where we are in and then walk into where we get the resources. So it's also that because, you know, we need that gut once we had that gut, and that's one of the reasons why we are where we are. And so I just would love to add that. And thank you, Laura, for that wonderful speech. Although it's very short, as you said, you know, we just loved it. Thank you very much for that wonderful message that we have. Next, we have speaker Maluke Lethal. Sorry, I just always kind of difficult with that pronunciation. So Maluke Lethal. So you are.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. My name is Maluke Lethal, and my screen is showing that my connection is unstable. So hopefully it will work. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Laura. That was a very powerful speech. When you talk about being lonely at the top, I believe I know what you're talking about. Having coming from an human resources background, I've seen leaders, you know, I've seen it playing out, you know, in leaders that I was serving when I was in the corporate. So thank you very much for that and for reminding us of such things. Today, I've been, not today per se, for the past few days, what has been sitting on my mind was leadership and self-control, you know. Traditionally, leadership was, in a way, not very fussy. The requirements were like having a qualifications depending on what organization or what you were leading, whether it was religious, corporate, or politics, or whatever. Really, all what was needed was having the qualifications that is required, probably having courage, you know, to lead, and having the confidence to probably convince others that you can lead them, you know, into a specific future or lead a specific course. But as I've been observing, it looks like now the requirements are becoming bigger for leadership, for leadership. So for someone who wants to be in leadership or someone who is in leadership, the requirements are becoming a little bit big and many. And one of them, lately, we hear a lot about emotional intelligence in leadership. Something that was never really spoken about, I can say 15, 20 years ago. It was not a big issue. You know, it was not a buzzword per se in leadership. So today I want to zoom in on the subtitle of, I will call it a subtitle within emotional intelligence of self-control. You know, these days one is required to have that level of self-control to control their emotions and, you know, often under difficult circumstances, under trying circumstances, leadership is required to be clear-headed, to be level-headed, to be controlled in some way, to remain calm, because the people that you are leading are taking the cue from you. You know, they are looking at how you are reacting to circumstances and situations, and they're taking from that. And the success or otherwise of the organization, of the project, really depends on that as well. So I thought I would speak about self-control. Firstly, I look at self-control when it comes to emotions that, like I've already said. Secondly, uh, nowadays, I feel like when I look around and look on the internet and social media, people are looking towards billionaires, as their role models. And for me, I look at it a little bit differently. It's not only about the money, but it's about how the person got there. And I think for some of them, or actually most of them, there was a level of self-control that is involved. How they controlled their finances from the beginning. Most of them started from nothing. And you really need to have, I believe, some kind of control over your finances, little as they may be at the time, for you to grow that wealth into something significant and meaningful. So for an ordinary person out there who's looking to take up a leadership position in whatever way, the ability to manage how you spend your money is very, very critical. Starting as little as your groceries, your needs, clothes, and so on and so forth. Do you buy bling that you're going to gloat about on social media, or do you buy the stuff that you need? And where do you take um, other portions of your money? Where does it go? Does it go into savings? Does it go into investments and stuff like that? So for me, leadership involves such things. How do I spend my money? No matter how little it may be, but that, I believe, will take me to the next level in my life. Then another critical, important thing that I don't know if people really think about when they think about leadership is the control of your own health. There are some of the illnesses and diseases that people suffer from in the world are said to be under our control. What we eat, whether we exercise or not, how much do we rest, and so on and so forth. So how do we control your own health in terms of, do you watch your diet? Do you take in anything? And especially at this time of the year, we do have beautiful excuses, to eat, myself included, to eat more than what our bodies really need. So for me, a person who wants to be in leadership, they need to start looking at what they eat, because then that affects how their bodies will carry them forward. When you look, Laura mentioned Mandela. He led an organization for some 67 years. He was in leadership. And had he not had a body to carry him for all those years, a strong body to carry him for all those years, he would have lost that leadership role, and we wouldn't have gotten all that we got from him. So for me, health is critical for us to look to control our health, to look after ourselves, and to exercise, all those things that doctors advise us to do, so that our bodies can carry us. I don't know if anyone will follow a person who's always dragging their feet. They're always sick with this and that, and so on and so forth. It's true that in some diseases we might not have that control over. However, the little ones, the ones that are really affecting a lot of people, at least in my country, in South Africa, things like diabetes and hypertension, are things that we are advised and told that are under our control. So self-control when it comes to what you put in your body, self-control when it comes to how you strengthen the physical body and how you strengthen the mental as well, are under your control as a leader. So you cannot really come up with excuses for that. I was reading a book here that says that I was reading in early in the morning that Theodore Roosevelt, I think, was born with a debilitating asthma condition. And according to the book, he exercised every day. I think from the age of 12, if I'm not mistaken. Every day he would exercise his physical until he outgrew the asthma and became the leader that he became. So we, when it comes to health, it's really under our control and we can control what goes on there. Lastly, I want to also talk about the control of the mind, what you think, what you feed your mind every day, and how you feed it. Those are the things that we need to constantly look out for, constantly hold on to, learning how to feed our minds, because there are people still who still don't know that every day when you wake up, you choose to feed your mind certain things. The media that you consume, the people that you follow on social media, the books that you read, all that's how you feed in your mind. And you need to be cognizant of what you are feeding and how that it translates in how you carry yourself and how you lead, irrespective of who you are leading and so on. And people need to understand that just because you don't have a title doesn't mean that you are not leading. I always say to people, there are people who are looking at you and they are not telling you that they are looking at you. They are not telling you that you are their role model. You know what I'm saying? They're looking at your behavior. They're looking at how you carry yourself day in, day out. And your mind tells them how you are. Your behavior tells them how your mind is carrying on, or what your mind has, what you are thinking on a daily basis, what is your outlook, what is your attitude towards life, what is your attitude toward the world. So those are the things, health, the mindset, finances, are all the things that are under our control. And another thing that I also wanted to talk about is addiction. As leaders, in my opinion, we have to look at our addictions. Do we have addiction and if we do have addictions, how are we dealing with them? And are we dealing with them even? If you are a leader, you tell yourself that you are a leader and you smoke. Every day you smoke certain number of cigarettes. That is an addiction, because in my opinion, addiction is something that you cannot do without. You cannot go a day, you cannot go a week without indulging in that thing, and it's not good for your body. So we need to look at ourselves in that sense of self-control. Am I controlling what I think? Am I controlling what I eat? Am I controlling what I consume within my mind, what I read, what I listen to? So that's, for me, is very critical before you can even go out and try to take up a bigger leadership role or to go to the next level of your leadership. The leader of self is very critical. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you, Matuke. Thank you for that wonderful speech. Yes, indeed. So when you were speaking, I was having a vision in my head. I was thinking about, just a driver, just driving the bus. So most of I was just metaphorically using the steering as the self-control, and most of us, when we drive, we don't have any control over the steering. Take me wherever you want to take, and we just let it go. Yeah, exactly. Because it kind of my story actually started with this self-control. I was actually a drug addict. I had this, smoking habit. I actually used to smoke around 6 to 7, 8, cigarettes at night before I sleep. This is only before I sleep. I couldn't sleep without having. When I would fall asleep, I would just happy. So many times I tried hard not to. So I would just stop by near a shop and buy some cigarettes and put them in my pocket and just start walk again. And then when I was about to reach my home, I would think no, and I would just throw it away. And as soon as I reach my home, I would go back to the shop and buy it again. Cursing myself. Why would I have to throw it away, right? I could have just kept it to myself. Anyway, so kind of actually that self-control, had controlled me, had put me in position. Just I could say that, those habits, those addictions actually, and it kind of led me into another way. Of course, self-control is a very strong, a fundamental part of being a leader. Because if you don't have that, the problem is the people who follow you might follow you wherever that you go, right? So that's that fantastic. I just loved it, and thank you so much for that wonderful speech. And I just would love to ask our audience if you have any questions to ask to Maluke.
Yeah.
So
in the absence of sorry, Sachin, in the absence of questions, I'd really like, I want to comment on your comment to say, for me, this is what leadership is all about: overcoming your own weaknesses, if I might put them in that way, overcoming your own hindrances that hinder you to move to the next level. You saying for you it was smoking. For me, it was keeping healthy and exercising. I've been exercising like since my 20s, on and off. But about 5 years ago, I made that commitment. Daily, Monday to Friday, I exercise, irrespective of the weather, irrespective of what is going on and I've had a very difficult past 4-5 years. But every morning, 5 a.m., I'm up and I'm exercising. And I had to overcome that laziness, thing. So it's all about overcoming that, overcoming our own little obstacles, that we come across. So yeah, thank you very much, Sachin, for saying.
And there's something that I'm just thinking about. I really loved your point, Maluke, when you mentioned about taking care of our minds. And also you touched based on addiction. And I was just laughing to myself because, I'm also person who struggles with smoking tobacco and stuff and things like that. One thing that I picked up is that certain people, they get this thing through what you call genetic predispositions, and sometimes our genetic factors play a role in maintaining or quitting the habit of whether you're a drinker or a smoker. So more oftenly, it's more of like once your genes or your predispositions get, touched in a sense, then the gap opens. It's like you get eroded in a sense, of which if you stay for a longer time, you get more eroded, even more eroded on that part. And as a result, the gap of addiction increases. But it depends on people, on their genetic factors, on how they build. Because some other people, they can smoke a cigarette for 3 years and they can quit easily, while others can smoke for a longest time and can't be able to stop. So again, it's not to say that I'm saying people who smoke must smoke or people who drink must drink, but I'm trying to say that if I were to give an advice to people who smoke, I would say don't even try, because the habit of having to maintain that habit is gonna be too much for you. You see, yeah,
And yeah,
because you don't know
luckily
that.
luckily in Jagulo, for people like those, I would
Mm,
say there are professionals out there who can help.
mm,
If you or any other person can't stop on their own, we
mm.
luckily do have people who help such people. So yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
thank you
That.
for sharing with us.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah. So I just would love to ask a question. It's not related to the subject, to Dr. Laura Cobb. So I often have this problem. I just could not get words as I speak. Sometimes I just it's something very familiar. Just like when I started the speech, I could not get the word YouTube. So I was just trying to find, okay, but what is it called? I know that thing. What is it called? So just trying to find out. So sometimes it happens. So is there any neurological conditions, or so could you just guide me there?
There, thank you for asking. There could be some blocks. I think Lou mentioned their predisposition. I wouldn't say that there's a genetic predisposition to not being able to say the word YouTube, although there could be a genetic predisposition to let me backtrack. I think there may be blocks to the extent that if we're under certain circumstances, including stress, that our language, our ability to communicate in a slower fashion and be mindful of the words that are generated from our mouth, that nerves and excitement and adrenaline may encourage us to stutter or stammer. Personally, I talk very fast. And right now, it may seem like it's normal for you or even somewhat fast. This is very slow for me to speak. I'm making a mindful effort to slow down my speech, and it's deliberate, and it's very difficult for me right now because I want to talk like this is not helpful. So I would imagine, at least for me, and Maluke mentioned emotional intelligence, I utilize positive intelligence so that I'm mindful in the moment and I slow down the pace such that I'm completely aware as well as I can be to be present. And those pregnant pauses like that can seem like it takes forever. However, when we choose our voices or choose our words very, very specifically and deliberately, those word choices that you have, people will listen because it's noticeable that you're taking a moment to be deliberate with the words that you want to convey. I'll tell you, and I'll end on this, is that I'm an extrovert. And I think people have a misconception regarding introverts that they're just that they're shy or that they don't want to talk. And I don't believe that. I believe that introverts are extremely mindful of processing tremendous amount of detailed information that is quite deep as well. It's merely that, for me at least, when an introvert speaks, I stop and listen, because that means that those words, even though they're few and far between, those words are more meaningful because they're chosen specifically for that time and place. Not sure if that helps. That's what comes to mind as I'm speaking. Thanks for asking.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that. Okay, so so I just would love to once again thank you for both of you, Matuke and Laura Cobb, and I'd love to see you on this platform again in the future. And thank you for once again from the bottom of our heart. Thank you.
Us.
Thank you very much.